Hi there. Welcome to episode 4 of the Wonderfully Knit podcast. I'm Heather. This video podcast slash vlog is really kind of an online diary really for me to keep up with some projects that I'm working on and to kind of share and pass on and hopefully form a little bitty community of people who are not merely interested in the stuff that I do and the stuff that I am, but also interested in communicating with other folks about what it's like to be a pre-medical or pre-professional, in this case, pre-medical professional, with hints and tips and, hey, I dealt with that, and this is how I did this, and you might want to look into this. And the spots for that are going to be the vlog's webpage, which is wonderfullyknitpodcast.blogspot.com. Wonderfully Knit Podcast is all one word. There are 2 L's. And then also on Ravelry, if you do a search for our group, you can just look up Wonderfully Knit Podcast, and you should be able to find us. Do come over and participate. Say hey, make some comments here on YouTube, whatnot. Let's get something going. So, generally on this one, I end up talking about something that pertains to pre-professionals. Again, my concentration is pre-med, so that's what I know, but I'm firmly convinced that some, shall we say, cross-disciplinary seeding is always a good thing. So if pre-med is not your thing and you think you have some useful tips for me or even for other people who are more interested in things that you do, like occupational therapy, veterinary, whichever, do go ahead and let us know. I'm going to be excited to hear what you say. So we'll start off with the kind of pre-med stuff today like we usually do. And today's thing is volunteering. By now, I would hope you guys should know that you should seek as soon as possible to get involved in a volunteering situation so that not merely, they're going to expect it from you in your application. That's absolutely correct. You need to be able to reflect that you have the commitment to service required of somebody who's expected to be in a leadership position. And a leadership position is often what doctors end up being. We're considered to be people who are wanting to enter into positions of authority as a doctor. And we need to be seen, among other things, to see ourselves as part of a community for various reasons. And I'm not going to go into those here because I'll sound like a preaching mom. I am sometimes, but I'd like to avoid that on here. So, obviously, there's going to be your volunteering that pertains to your interest in your field, in your chosen career, which is great. There's absolutely not a thing wrong with that. That's going to be things like volunteering at a hospital, if you can get on for that. I know a lot of people at my school who volunteer at the hospital local to my school. They wind up doing things like hospital transport, which is moving patient from, say, they've been admitted from the emergency room and they need to go to the room. That's going to be the person who gets the patient and physically takes the gurney and whatnot up to the room where they will be. Or candy stripers or whatever. Get started now. Some other forms of volunteering in medicine that you want to consider are things like rural access medicine, rural access medical, which is kind of a nonprofit that's near and dear to my heart. Because what I'm seeking it to go into, insofar as medicine goes, is largely primary care that concerns serving patients who live in rural and underserved. You can be urban and underserved, so that's why underserved was added there. Rural underserved patient populations, because that's where my heart is. That's where I grew up for the most part as a kid. That's where my family is generally from. That's where I live now. So that's, and I see the need in my local community, and I want to do that. And RAM does service in exactly those kind of rural and underserved populations for free. You show up the night before, kind of, find out where you're going to be staying. Sometimes there's arrangements made to stay locally. You need to check those out. I do recommend checking those out to be sure that that's going to work out for you, because sometimes they don't. I had one instance where that was not going to be a good choice for me. I was not going to be very functional the next day, and so I ended up getting an inexpensive motel room with a roommate who had driven with me. And then the next day, which is usually a Saturday, is spent helping out. As a person who is a more general volunteer, I have education in things like, I have certifications from the American Heart Association for first aid and, basic life saving, and similar for health professionals as well, because that was available through my school. So there's that, and then of course with the classes that I've covered, I've also been educated in universal precautions to maintain your own health and prevent transferring disease to others. So there's that. As a result, I end up occasionally helping out in places I wouldn't expect to help out, like over in dentistry. And I can spend a whole day doing that, and it's just fine. And I would do it again. Actually, I am doing it again. Here in a couple of weeks, I'm going to be going to another such volunteer opportunity. Now, you want to get in on those fairly quickly. They can really fill up very fast for undergrads, because what they most often find is that even though they do have a lot of need for general assistance, people who can do intake and take vital stats and this kind of thing, what they most often find themselves coming down to the line on is qualified providers who can volunteer their time. So if you are a qualified provider and you can help out at those, that would be really great. I've been to several of these clinics, and very few of them that I have been able to attend have had a general practitioner who can see someone to give, say, a general checkup for, let's say, older pediatrics, that kind of thing. Or be available to say, okay, well, you've got a nasty case of strep, or even do basic OBGYN screenings, that kind of thing. I've been to one clinic that had them, and I have yet to run into a community that doesn't need more than that. Dental alone can fill up the whole day by itself. The needs of the community where I'm at in regards to dentistry are actually really, really high, because in a lot of cases people will have some insurance that will cover, general medical care, maybe some glasses, but oftentimes dental is going to be the area where there's going to be a lot of people falling through the donut hole. They simply can't afford it, and what little coverage they have is not great for that. We have a state insurance, and in a lot of cases it will cover basic care for children and needed care for children, but might not do the same thing for adults. So again, dental, people can show up for dental and we will be there all day long with multiple providers. We actually get a lot of great dentists. So consider that. So that's some medical stuff. On top of just general medical volunteering in a local, nonprofit or office or whatever you end up doing, you should also seek out other volunteering that has nothing to do with your intended field, nothing to do at all with medicine, and do it. For example, I volunteered with my church. We had for a while a program where I could help out with dispensing church funds to people who were going to be using it for food. And that program also, was responsible for helping people with rent and this kind of thing, because oftentimes if they could be helped with rent, they would be okay enough to get through to the next month. And so that was one of the more powerful experiences I've ever had. It has nothing to do with medicine, not a thing. And it's going to be one of the more formative volunteer opportunities I've ever had. I would have been sad if I had been unable to do that. On top of that, you've got some other community type stuff. You know, hook in with an organization that does like a roadside cleaning or something. You know, there's a little, hey, they get together every once in a while and take care of that. A lot of times, some Greek organizations and that kind of thing will have adopted that sort of program. That's something for you to look into as well. My own the school where I did my post-bac undergrad has just a general service organization as well. They do that. There are also going to be organizations like that are more general in sphere are also going to be really great places to find just other general community organization volunteering. And I encourage you to check that out. Some other nonprofits, for example, I play in the Society for Creative Anachronism, which is, I believe I've mentioned before, but kind of medieval and Renaissance reenactment. It's not what you would call hardcore reenactment, like say some of the Long Hunter and American Civil War and that kind of stuff. But nonetheless, it is a 501c3 nonprofit, and it's an educational mandate. And I've been playing in it since about 1999, but the other aspect of that is that as one plays and one has an opportunity in that society to expand to also do teaching. One does teaching demos. I've done several demos at elementary and high schools that were a ton of fun, and of course have nothing to do with medicine, and wouldn't trade it for the world. In addition, you also get some opportunities in these more community organizations for things like recognition of your leadership, say in a Toastmasters club, that sort of thing, or general participation and devotion. For those of us who maybe don't have a very long job history, either because we're 22 or because we are somebody who is re-entering the workforce or re-entering school and as a non-traditional student like I am, some of us have been stay-at-home moms for a long time. And as such, we don't have a very long work history. But, in the case of the SCA for me, I've been in it since 1999. And so that's 15, 16 years of participation. And that kind of longevity speaks on its own. So let me hear from you guys about the kinds of volunteer organizations and opportunities that you have found. I would really love to hear what you have to say on that matter, because I think there's a lot more, like a lot of students at my university had some problems finding some local volunteer options for them, and needed it just as much as I did. And I told them what I did, but I'm only one person, and they're all looking amongst one another for volunteer organizations and volunteer opportunities. And I would really have loved to have been able to give them some more information or say, hey, you can go look at, this particular website or what have you, in order to give them more options that would have fit their lifestyle. And so that's almost 14 minutes now, so why don't we go ahead and move on to Stash. Well, and that was Stash, so, let's move on. No, but seriously, this past week I've been working on these projects, this one rather large project under which there's an umbrella of many smaller projects. And as a result, because I've been working kind of head down into that, I really haven't had a whole lot of Stash addition this week. I bought some gold leafing, and I had a project that used that for the first time, and I'll talk about that here in a while. But really, not even a new spool of thread. I seriously used some thread I already had. Not yarn, not paper, not anything. Okay, so on to projects then. So this is the upper part. Let's see. We got some beautiful sunshine today, so I'm hoping to take advantage of it so you guys can see pretty decent color of what's going on here, but this is going to be a little difficult to get all on camera. I'm hoping to post a picture either on, if I can't fit it into the video, I'll see if I can't post it onto the blog and the group at Ravelry and see how that'll work out for it. I've gotten some pictures of some of these smaller things close up, but anyway, let me show you. So, this is, for all intents and purposes, the outfit of a Viking woman. And I made every flippin' thing by hand. When I say every flippin' thing by hand, I mean, obviously, I didn't make all of the glass beads. That's not a skill that I have. And I didn't make the little keys and things like that. But I made this, the pins here. I made all of these. And I also gilded them. It's really, really shiny in here. But hopefully I can get it to show you. There we go. You can see there kind of the owl face that I worked into the underlying thing. And this is a trilobate pin. As you can see, this slit comes down here, and women would use the pins that were roughly this shape in order to shut it at the top. They could also use tiny little pin annulars. Pin annular, essentially, is this. This is a really long one with a really long pin, but really, this is a pin annular. You stick the pin in like this, right, around stuff you want to keep shut, right? So I've done this. Actually, let me do it in the wool because I think I'll get a little more play there. Right, yep, right, like that. So I just stuck the pin in, right? And now I'm going to slip this behind it and turn it. It's going to turn, technically, and then it'll stay in that way. It'll stay in that way. Given enough wool. Alright. So that's a pin annular. And they would use, that's a fairly big one. You can see this. This would have been worn such that the pin was facing back over your shoulder probably. Nobody's going to come try to grab you from the rear by grabbing your shoulder. Or you're going to know about it because they're going to go, hey, ow, and say possibly other less FCC-friendly things. So they would have used tiny versions out here. So that's that. So this, crud. A set of keys for the woman who has stuff to keep track of and lock away in her house from those naughty kids and potential thieves. These were often called Tortoise Brooches. There's some variation in where you could wear them. This is just a festoon of beads, glass beads, lampwork beads. You can probably see them. There's one. There's one. The rest of these are all glass beads except for these little round ones. These are carnelian, and that right there is an amethyst. I just thought they were pretty, and I wanted to use them, and they pleased me. So I put them on there. These are some linen. This is actually linen tape. It's a very narrow band of linen. That's all. It's undyed. And all of this was sewn by hand. You can see, in fact, some of the hand embroidery that I did. You can see there that the binding, which is linen, is sewn entirely by hand. And, of course, the sleeves that I was talking about a little while ago, those great sleeves, they're right here. And they served me very well. I was very happy with it. The whole thing worked really pretty nicely. It was disgustingly, almost dismayingly comfortable to wear. And when I say dismayingly, it's because normally I wear 16th century clothing when I go and I do my SCA stuff. But I really needed a faster project because I insist on hand sewing stuff anymore most of the time. I needed a faster project to get together because I have a quick garb. As you can imagine, some formal 16th century clothes can take a while to put on. I have taken as long as an hour and a half just to get freaking dressed. I'm not going to do that at, 5:30, 6 o'clock in the morning when we need to be on the road before 7 o'clock, which was the case. And so I needed something that was just quick to throw on, but sadly, the garment that I would use to do that, normally and dressed in 16th century clothes, has seen the attentions of some nasty wool-eating beetles or buggies or whatever. And there were holes in it. As a result, I really don't want to wear it anymore. It needs to be retired. And I determined that this was going to be a quick way to use some of the smaller amounts of fabric that I have that I have in my stash, because I'm trying to use up some of my fabric stash, which is currently, when stacked against a wall, taller than me. Yeah. I had the black and white herringbone fabric for some while now, and I've really been wanting to use it. But the blue fabric, I've actually had even longer than that. My husband has had a pair of pants for the SCA. Voluminous, huge pants! And that's actually the remnant from them. I'm really pleased with how efficient we were with using that. We have enough leftover like snips and ends of fabric to maybe make an apron and a little kerchief for a doll, like an American Girl size doll. And that's out of maybe 10 yards of fabric that were purchased originally. It's a linen. The blue is a linen, as you might understand, because linen is super comfortable as a layer that's closer to the skin. There were plenty of woolen items that were worn next to the skin as well. I don't have anything that's soft enough to do that. It would be uncomfortable for me because I don't. Let's see. So that's actually a whole set of projects. You've got the festoon on the front, the keys. You've got all three of those brooches. Then you've got the gilding on top of them, which I've never done before. So it's looking pretty rough, but it's actually not bad, I think, for a first go round. You've got the cirque, the undertunic, the blue thing, and then you've got the smocker. Now they were modeled on historical items, but changes had to be made because my fabric width is different, and so is my body width. We're not going to talk about that any more than that. So really, after that, I had a really great event on Saturday. I saw some pieces. Y'all, I have never done this before. I saw some pieces that were so wonderful at this event. I was doing some judging of arts and sciences entries, and I saw pieces that made me tear up. I have never done that before. Made me tear up. Beautiful work. It was great, and it was really great to be there, and I just enjoyed the heck out of myself. I got to see some friends I haven't seen in a while, which is always great, even though I only got to see them for a moment. One of the dangers in the SCA, of after you've been in there for a while and you've started to make a whole bunch of friends, especially friends who do stuff like I do. I'm a do stuff kind of person. Friends who do stuff. It can be challenging to feel like you spent enough time hanging out with friends that you only see at events, because there's just so many, it's not possible. So had a great time, and then I got home and I fell over, and basically I ended up here for the past few days. I've sort of been resting. The girls have been off due to weather issues here. We have a beautiful sunny day, like I said earlier. It's gorgeous outside, even though right now the Northeast is under a blizzard. Thinking about you guys, stay warm, and ice dams are bad. And so I've been kind of resting and also just generally taking care of my girls. There's not a lot about having an active 6-year-old in the house that lends itself to getting much done except taking care of the 6-year-old in the house. And then on Monday she wasn't feeling great too. So that all adds to things. So that's going to be all of my projects for this week. I think that's probably going to be it. I have managed to expand this into about 24-25 minutes now, and I think it's probably time to wrap up. Anyway, so we will see you guys hopefully next week, and I'll have some interesting stuff to talk about then. And I will be seeing you guys hopefully on the group, either on Ravelry or commenting in comments at YouTube. Please give a like to the video if you've enjoyed it. Please let me know what kind of things you'd like to see or see less of in comments on YouTube or on Blogspot or on Ravelry. Let us know what volunteer things that you can think of to share with others that you think perhaps hasn't been considered before. And I hope you guys have a really great week. We'll see you again next time.